Okay, so this is what you should look at for your syllabus agreement. It's just saying that you agree to the syllabus. If you disagree, we'll talk it out and see what kind of concerns you have. But it's just a yes or no question. Okay. The next thing you have is your syllabus quiz. Now you can pull your syllabus up. This is going to be your syllabus right here. And then you can also have your quiz open at the same time. Um, you can even download the course syllabus, which I hope this thing will let me do right now. There we go. Okay, so any questions so far, guys?
No.
No questions from anybody? All right then. So this is a 3 credit hour class. We will meet every Monday and Wednesday morning. We'll be either doing it on campus once the January, I believe it's either the 20, I think it's the 25th, January 25th. We will be allowed to be back on campus again. And that's when we'll start picking into labs and stuff like that. But until then, we'll be doing lectures online, and and after that point, we'll do labs together in class. Um, any questions on that? This is actually why it's called a hybrid course, is because we are not strictly online, but we are not strictly in the classroom. We're both.
When are labs going to be? Like, are they going to be on a specific day or?
Yes, I will try and make sure that when we are ready to go to labs, we have the whole time we need to do so. It might be that we come in for half a day of lecture and then I'll let y'all go into lab, or it might be just a full day of lab. It's going to kind of depend upon what kind of pace we set here and how well we keep that pace. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sounds good.
Because I've had it where we've fallen behind on labs before and just on the ground classes because we just didn't end up with enough time. But I've also had the opposite true where we ended up with too much time. So I'm going to try and make sure we stay in a good balance to make sure that everybody is able to be understanding the material as we cover it. And yeah. All right. So prerequisites. This is a general admission class. There's no prerequisites for it. But what you do need for this class, and I'm going to go ahead and turn on my video real quick. This thing will come on, let me do it. All right. So what you need is going to be a scientific calculator, and what you need to have this thing to have are things like sine, cosine, and tangent, as well as it needs to be able to do powers and roots. Okay. This is my personal favorite. I've got like 5 or 6 of these. They should be something you should have gotten in elementary or middle school, and that is the TI-30X2S. You can buy them generally at Target or Walmart, but you might have to look a little harder at Walmart to get the right one. What you need, I'm stumbling over myself today. What you need is a scientific calculator that is able to perform those trigonometry functions. Well, I'll go ahead and tell you now, the trig is not something we're going to get into for this class, but you will need it for AC and a lot of the other classes that will follow this one. So go ahead and just pick it up. I think they're less than 20 bucks most of the time. You can even buy them off Amazon. I've got a couple off Amazon myself. But go ahead and make sure you're getting these calculators together, guys, because I'll go ahead and tell you now, we're going to be doing some math in this class. Just to kind of give you the idea of why things work the way they work and how they work. Next thing you need is the Schoolcraft Publishing book, Basic Electronics. And let me see if I can find my... I'll show y'all my beat up old copy of it. It's this spiral bound paper book. You have to get it through the Lawson State Bookstore. So there is that. But it has to be Schoolcraft Publishing. And I know a lot of y'all think that you can get it off Amazon. And I'll tell you now you can't because Amazon doesn't sell our particular book. Any questions on that? Any questions so far on anything we've covered? All right, you should also be able to access your email account. This is your student provided email, your college provided email. So this should be your A number at lawsonstate.edu, I believe. And you need to have internet access. Especially as this is a hybrid course, you have to be able to access the internet. If you're having trouble with that, please let me know. So Blackboard is something you will be using all the time, so we're going to have to learn to love it. Excuse me. So here's going to be the basic rundown of what we're covering. So for the first few classes, we're going to be covering fractions, decimals. I don't know when the last time this was updated, but we're not going to be covering positive and negative numbers. We will be covering ratios and proportions instead. And we'll be working with exponents and the metric system. So I need to go in and update this whenever I get a minute. All right, so, and then the second part of this class, so the first 2 weeks, we'll start on fractions today and just kind of start as a review. We tend to blow through pretty quickly through fractions, decimals, and ratios, proportions. What we end up slowing down on is this guy right here. I'll provide y'all some worksheets that y'all can use to help you make sure you have that understanding, and our first lab will be based off of working with those exponents and the metric system. So the way you're going to be graded, everything has its own weight, okay? So what do I mean by it's weighted? Well, I mean that we're giving 3 tests and a final. Now, why is it the way I said that is? And that's because you have 3 tests, and those are tests. The final is its own entity, okay? Now, the good thing about tests is that we will drop your lowest score in our program on the test work. So if you make, let's say you had 2 really great tests, you made a 90 and 100, but then on your last test you made a 60. We drop the 60, we keep the 90 and 100 and average that out, which would equal a total of 20% of your grade. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Assignments and homework. I won't be giving you that much homework or that many assignments. The ones that we do have are posted out here to It's posted under activities. This thing will come on. Thank you. So the assignments are fairly basic, and we'll go ahead and talk about what they are real quick. One of the assignments is going to be doing math quizzes, which we'll talk about here in just a second. If I can get this thing to work for me. All right, so assignment 1, that's going to be doing your first week quizzes and agreements. It's an easy assignment. All you got to do is go in through those course agreements and quizzes. There's only 2 quizzes. That's the syllabus and the safety evac, and you're done. Assignment 2 is to send me an email. I want to make sure that the line of communication is open between us. I know it says to try and use the mail feature like this guy. Sometimes that comes through to me, sometimes it doesn't. You should be able to email me directly. And if you have any questions on that, let me know. As we do the tests, which I need to turn this off. I forgot I had that on. All right, so as we go through the tests, I will release the previous test once we've gone over it. So after we finish test 1 and we've gone over it, I will release it back to you so you can use it as a study guide for test 2. Does that make sense? And we'll do that every time we go over a test. Okay? Chapter quizzes. Now, this is something you definitely want to pay attention to because that's how much of your grade? That's a chunk, right? So let's say that you do perfectly on test, you do all your assignments, you have all the required supplies, so on and so forth, right? You've got all of this good, but you don't do your chapter quizzes. What's the highest grade you can make? If this is worth 25% of your grade, what's the highest grade you can make? Anybody want to take a stab at it?
75.
I think Jess is at 35.
If you do very well with your everything else, but you don't do any of your chapter quizzes, highest grade you will make is going to be a 75. The highest grade you'll make is a 75. That's not good. Considering you have to make a minimum of a 70% to pass this class. So please, 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 as we go through the stuff we're going through, like I said, we're going to start out with fractions. So once we finish today, you should very well be able to easily go in and do the fraction quiz. Just go ahead and knock it out as we go through, guys. Don't wait till the last second, because that's where a lot of people end up in a lot of problems, because they waited till what? They wait till that last second and then try and go, oh, I completely forgot. Why is my grade so terrible? Well, did you do this? Yes. Check again. Now, the good thing about these quizzes is that I have them open for you to take as many times as you want. I will tell you all these quizzes, I will pull from those into every test we do. Every test is cumulative. So what's on test 1, you'll see similar questions on test 2. What's on test 1 and 2 will be on test 3. So test 1 is going to be all of this. So use this kind of as your study guide. I take the highest grade. So if you make a 70 the first time, but you make 100 the second, you get 100. Yay you. But that is 25% of your grade, guys, so please, please, please don't make me the bad guy. I don't want to have to sit there and go, you haven't finished your math quizzes. That's why you are not passing this class. Because I've had a lot of people that come up to me and go, well, I did all my work. Checked math quizzes. Didn't do them. That would be why you get the grade you get. So just go ahead and knock these out, guys. As we go through these, just go ahead and do them. Knock them out. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Like I said, you can take them as many times as you want. Get whatever grade you want on that. Okay? Any questions on that, guys? I will take your silence as a no. So the next thing, we have required supplies. So that's going to be, I'll go ahead and tell you now. You will be doing labs, and if you do any lab in pen, I will automatically deduct points. Invest in pencils. Because the last thing I like to see whenever somebody's doing this is I'll hate to see everybody scratch out right over here, right over here. It looks messy. It's hard to follow, especially if I start getting lots and lots of people doing this across all my classes. There's always one person that does it. I ask that you go ahead and invest in a few pencils. You need to make sure you have your calculator, which again, I have my preferences, but any scientific calculator you're comfortable using. If you like a Casio, if you like a Texas Instruments, what have you, make sure it can do trig functions. That's all you got to do. Lab is 15% of your grade. There are a total of 4 labs, one of which is just a take-home, roughly homework assignment type lab, and the other 3 we will do in class. And then the final exam is 20% of your grade. So let me ask you this. Do you think you can skip your final? Let's say you make A's on all your tests. Can you skip your final? What do y'all think? And the answer is no. You cannot skip your final. Doesn't work that way. Okay? Any questions about the breakdown on this, guys? Like I said, if you see your grade, your points are not matching up to what you think your grade should be, it is because we do this. It's because we weight it. We say, okay, so here's your chapter quizzes. They're 25% of your grade. You didn't bother to get more than a C on all of them. Yeah, that's going to drag your grade down. I don't care how many points it was worth. You've drug your grade down by not doing those. Does that make sense? Okay. And guys, don't feel free to pipe in with any questions you have. The only question that's a bad question is the one unasked. Okay. There's a total of 3 tests during this term, plus the final exam. Again, final exam is not a test, it's the final. Okay. I don't generally time the test in this class simply because there's too much material. And I know some people don't do well trying to do quick math in their heads. But there is one part of this that I definitely follow, and that's the fact that I cannot give you makeup tests. Which I know that sounds mean, but honestly, that's how it has to go. If you consider the fact that this is a 9-week course, well, not even 9 weeks, roughly. Basically, we don't have the time to do makeup tests. I wish I could tell you different. Wish I could say that, yes, we can do makeup work. We don't have the time. This is the class. These mini terms are what I like to call the boogie classes, which means if we don't keep boogieing down, we don't get done with it. Okay? I don't really, if some unforeseen circumstances, like we get hit with a giant run of COVID and we can't do our labs, then yeah, I'll waive a lot of these kind of things, but that's what this is talking to is, if weather, all of a sudden we get tornadoes coming through, or um, meetings have to come up where I've got to attend and things like that, that's about the only time this really shifts. Okay. Again, we've talked about the math quizzes. You can take them as many times as you want to. If you want to go ahead and take a few of those, take them however you want to, but make sure they are done, guys. Don't leave one just out in the open, because that will affect your grade greatly. Just don't do it. I have had too many people do it, so I keep saying don't do it. So safety evac, again, that goes back under that start here tab. Go ahead and just knock those out. They're pretty easy. You can have the information open and that quiz open and just go back and forth. Final exam is a comprehensive one. This has questions from all previous tests, and no one is exempt from taking the final. I'll say that again. No one is exempt from taking the final. So do not ask. It's every semester I always have somebody tell me, well, I did so good on such and such test. Can I just skip the final? What's the answer to that? It is in black and white on the screen right now. That is, the answer is no. The answer is no. You are not allowed to skip your final. If you do, that's 20% of your grade that will not be given to you. So just don't do it. Easy as that. Attendance. I'll go ahead and tell you now, I'm a little looser with attendance than what a lot of other teachers are. That's for a couple different reasons, but the first one is that you are adults. You step into a college classroom, it's up to you to make sure that you get here on time, that you are logged in on time, that you are in class. It's not like back whenever you're in high school where you have I don't even know if they do this anymore, but they used to have truancy officers that if you didn't show up and you were supposed to be at school that day, they'd send somebody to go check on you or see what's going on with you. We don't do that. This is college level, guys. You are considered mostly an adult whenever you come in. So attendance is really up to you. Now, that being said, you should attend all classes that you're registered for. Even one or two absences can make you feel very lost. If it's something major, like you get called away to military duty or something like that, we can work with that. But if it's just you didn't have, you slept through class or something like that, I'll have these videos posted, hopefully, to my YouTube channel soon, and you can go back and watch them. That's about all I can really tell you. We don't really have time, again, kind of like with the makeup test, we don't have time for makeup work or makeup lectures. We just don't have the time for it. Okay? So, any questions so far on attendance? Because we'll kind of finish this up real quick. So attendance, try not to miss classes, guys. Okay? If you cannot come to class, like let's say you're sick, send me an email saying, hey, I'm sick, I can't come to class. That's fine. But don't just kind of like leave it in the wind. That's where you'll fall into problems. Make sure you check your Blackboard announcements and tasks. Review material. Keep an eye on what we go over, guys, because I can guarantee you I'm gonna post this stuff here, but y'all also have to kind of make sure you're keeping up with where you need to be. Okay. As far as withdrawals, I cannot drop you from this class. If you feel like you're not doing well enough to pass the class, then it needs to be you who drops the class. I can't drop you from it. So there's a couple of different ways you can do that if you end up having to, and that's where you go to the main Lawson website, and it's not that hard to find online with find the e-withdrawal form, I think is what they call it. As for lateness, I only really start docking on that whenever you're, let's say we've already been in class for over an hour. Well, you've already missed most of class anyway at that point. Any questions on attendance, guys? Like I said, I'm not as heavy-handed with it as a lot of people, but I still take it fairly seriously because it's something that y'all need to take seriously. Does that make sense? Any questions on attendance, guys? Okay. Academic integrity. Now, this is something I have had problems with in the past, especially in regards to lab. I don't know why people do this, but they do, and it drives me crazy. And it's called plagiarism and cheating. Now, let me go ahead and say this. Teachers are not as stupid as a lot of students seem to think. With lab, you're supposed to be showing me your own work. So if you and your partner in a lab, we probably won't be doing partners at this point, but for future reference, if you and a partner or you and a classmate are working together on a lab, or let's say you finish the lab and everybody's just kind of talking, I do not want to see your classmate's answer for that question be the same as yours, if that makes any sense. So in other words, if I've got two labs sitting side by side and they are word for word the exact same answer, you know what that tells me? Hey John, what'd you get on this question? Oh, I like your answer better than mine. You're not learning anything when you do that. In fact, that can actually hurt you real bad academically. So use your own work, use your own words. Okay? Can't tell you how many times I've had to deal with this. It's awful. And it's kind of rampant through everything I've ever done with this. So the thing is, when you do commit plagiarism or cheating, the consequence is that I can go to our vice president and he can have you removed from the college. So it's just not worth it, guys. Do your own work. It's not that hard. If you have any questions, I'll generally try and help you find the answer. Don't just randomly turn to your fellow classmate and go, hey, what'd you get for this question? I'm stumped. I don't know what to do with this question. The answers will either be found in the PowerPoints I have loaded up. It can be found in the lab itself or the test itself. Yeah, I try and give y'all every opportunity to find the right answer. And I will even go so far generally to try and answer your question myself. Just don't put somebody else's answers as yours. Then it just becomes a very obvious run of cheating. Just don't do it. It's just not worth the problems that come with it. Professional decorum, some of this applies, some of this does not, mainly because we're doing what are called hybrid classes, and in those, it creates a lot of special circumstances. So things like texting in class, yes, if I see you in class itself and I can see you're messing with your phone and you're texting and you're not paying attention, I won't call you on it. But if you ask me to go back and review something after I've just sat there and watched you text for the last 10 minutes while I'm trying to impart something to you, I'll do one of two things. Either I will stop the lecture entirely and we will wait till you finish whatever conversation you have, or I'll just come walking by and say, put your phone away. Yeah. I mean like that. Sleeping, I can't really catch you sleeping if we're on this kind of a conference run. That's just kind of how that is. If you're in lab, though, that becomes very obvious, and I will sit there and say, hey, wake up. Speaking out of turn or rudely, if you have a question, just let me know, guys. I don't mind people asking questions, as long as they are appropriate to the material we are covering. Eating or drinking, if you're in lab, I ask that you do not bring food or drink into my lab spaces. If you must have something to drink, make sure it's got a bottle cap on it that you can seal so that you don't accidentally tip it all over my equipment and burn everything out in my equipment. But yes, that can happen. And finally, clothing should be appropriate. What do I mean by that? Well, clothing should not look like you rolled out of bed and came to school. Or it should not look like you're going out to a party or something. Try and look at least somewhat professional, guys. At the very least, jeans and a t-shirt are great. You'll find that in a lot of our classes, we ask you to wear closed-toed shoes, so something like along the lines of a tennis shoe or things along those lines, flip-flops and sandals. This isn't really the weather for it, but we ask that you don't generally wear it to our classes. Hats I don't generally have a problem with unless you start pulling your hat down so you can sleep. I've had people do that. Biggest pet peeve, though, are earphones. And that's because earphones mean that you're not listening to me. Okay? I ask that if you are in my classroom, you do not put your headphones on or your earphones in your ear, what have you. Just don't do that. That's disrespectful not only to you yourself, but to me as the instructor and your classmates. If it's before class, that's fine. If it's after class, that's fine. But in the middle of class, I ask that you do not put those in your ears. Okay? Course concerns. If you have any kind of a concern, the very first person you should bring it to is me. I'll try and work one-on-one with you for whatever matter you need to discuss. Or if you're having any trouble with anything, we can discuss it ourselves. If, however, I cannot solve whatever it is you have an issue with, the next person you would go to is my boss, who is Rich Raymond. He's my department chair, and he will try and help solve it as well. If the two of us can't solve it, the next person we'll go to is Nancy Wilson, and we'll just kind of start climbing the chain like that if the problem is really something that you need addressed. But the very first person you should talk to is me, and I will try my best to make sure that any questions or concerns you have try and get solved. Okay. Discrimination, harassment, I don't put up with it. You know, just don't. If you have a disability, the people you have to go through are the disability offices. The ADA, I don't know what's going on with this thing. So the ADA, you have to submit to them documentation of your disability, at which point they give you something to hand to me or to your other instructors saying, hey, the student might have ADHD and they need more time on test. Or, hey, this student needs this, that, and another. Okay? But I have to have something from the ADA office in order to make concessions. Every teacher does. You can't just walk up to us and say, well, I have ADHD and I don't do well on taking tests. Okay, I can't do anything about that. You have to talk to them. Any questions on that, guys?
No.
Okay. Any questions on anything we've done so far before we get to the next few bits? Okay. Cell phones and pagers. Again, I'm kind of loose with some of these policies than some teachers are sometimes, and sometimes I'm a little more of a stickler for it. When it comes to cell phones, I ask that if you are in classroom, that it's on vibrate. If you're at home, I can't do anything about that. But here on campus, if we're in the middle of something like lab where you need to be concentrating on what you're doing, I ask that you turn your cell phone to silent mode. And that's just less distraction for you and your fellow students. Okay. If you have a pager, then what are you doing with 90s technology? I don't know, and I'm not going to ask. Considering I haven't seen a pager outside of a doctor's office in 20 years. All right. So acceptable use policy. If you pull one of my laptops and use it, do the right thing. Don't get on stuff that you know you're not supposed to be on. Simple as that. Children on campus. I don't know how many of y'all have children. We don't allow them on campus. Now, I know some teachers have made exceptions for this rule. If it's at home, that's one thing, but if we're here in lab, we can't have kids running around. Kids are great in the respect that they are little miracles that are able to run around and drive you crazy. However, I have 7 nieces, so I can say this. Kids get bored. So the last thing I think anybody in this class ever wants to hear is, I'm bored. Can we play? Can we do something? I'm tired of sitting here. I don't want to sit here no more. I want to move. At which point, everybody in the class is looking at everybody else going, okay. So children are just not supposed to be on campus. So that is just a policy Lawson State's adapted to. All right. And one other thing is profanity. Now, again, I am a little looser with this than some teachers. If you happen to stick yourself with something or something like that, yes, I can see the use of profanity. I've tripped and fallen on my face before. I've stubbed my foot before. And generally, the first thing that comes to your mind is start to cuss. However, and I know more than a few people that do this, and I have never understood it. How to say this? Don't use things like the F-bomb every other word in a sentence that comes out of your mouth. That's just not appropriate. I don't know about what kind of bosses y'all have or anything like that, but most of the bosses I know, if you start letting that kind of stuff out, you can and might be asked to go home. So just keep it to a minimum, okay? You know, that or use something like, well, too many other ways to unoffensively say stuff like that. Okay? So just keep all that in mind. Okay? Any questions on the syllabus?
Nope.
Okay. Okay. Like I said, guys, the math quizzes, go ahead and just knock them out. Those are 25% of your grade. Don't wait till the last second. We'll be covering fractions here in just a little bit. I forgot to put my syllabus brief up. I'll have to work on that in a minute. All right. So let's see. Any other questions y'all have about first week quizzes and agreements or anything like that? No questions at all?
No, I'm good.
All right. Then I think we're done with the first part of this I wanted to go over. All right. All right, so let's take about a 10-minute break, be back here at 10 o'clock, and then we'll move on to our first module, which will be covering fractions.